Alrighty, we'll go ahead and get started if that's okay with everyone. Just wanted to give you all a warm welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is. Hold on. And I'm not singing the intro. Sorry about that, guys. Just wanted to give you all a warm welcome. My name is Will Safotu. I am a school counselor here with the Family Resource Center with Long Beach Unified, specifically coming out of the downtown central office. Wanted to thank our partners here, Julie Turvey and Nancy Flores from ChildNet, for joining us today. This is the second part of our three-part series. This one for today is communicating with your child during COVID-19. Just wanted to lay a few house rules. Just want to let you guys know that we are recording today to be able to broadcast and share this later on in the future with parents that weren't able to make it today. Given that today is the day that people are voting, we wanted to make sure that we were mindful of that. But for those of you that are here, thank you again. And time permitting, towards the end of Julie's presentation, she will be allowing questions, and I can stop recording just to make sure that this is a safe space. If you'd like to turn your camera on and ask your question to Julie, you are more than welcome to. Without further ado, I do open up the floor to Julie. Thanks again. And we'll see you hopefully next what is it? December for our next one. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much, Will. And thank you everyone for being here today. Are you seeing the PowerPoint? Okay, cool. I just started sharing it, so just wanted to make sure that worked. Let me get the right format here. So welcome everyone. Happy Election Day. I hope everyone, if you haven't voted, get out there and vote if possible. And thank you so much. I know there's so much going on right now, but we really appreciate you taking time to learn some new strategies. So just a little bit about myself. If you're new to the workshops, my name is Julie Turvey. I am a licensed MFT, which is marriage family therapist. I work at ChildNet Youth and Family Services in Long Beach, and we provide free counseling for children that have Medi-Cal insurance. So I've worked at ChildNet for 17 years, and ChildNet also partners with the school district in providing counseling services for children there. So I'm so grateful to the school district for allowing us to partner with them today to put on these workshops. So thank you to Will and Kimberly, who put a lot of work into finding the right times and setting up the Zoom links. And also Nancy Flores is on the call today as well. She works at ChildNet as well, and she'll be doing the Spanish workshop today at 2:30. So if you would like to share the message or share the workshop with Spanish speaking parents, feel free to let us know. So I think that's it for introductions. I wanted to just start by sharing a little bit about why we're talking about communication. And I wanted to just kind of put out there that I'm not here to tell anyone like one right way to do things. I'm here to give you ideas and strategies on how to promote a more positive relationship with your child. Sometimes, when we're tired, we're frustrated, we end up saying things that we regret, or we can actually cause harm to our children. And I don't think it's anything intentional that any of us do. I think it's just something that is either something we've learned, or we just haven't really learned some of the skills to be able to learn some of those more positive communication skills. So I know these are things that we all need to practice, right? No one does this perfect, but these are just some great reminders today. So I'm really glad that you're here. Parenting is one of those things that you're never perfect. You're never done. You're always kind of growing and working on yourself so that you can be a better parent. I've provided therapy in the Long Beach area for over 20 years, and I also have two children that are in their 20s. So all of the methods that we're talking about today, I've used with my own children and am currently working on that as well. So today we are actually, it's a webinar format, so it might look a little different than sometimes when you join Zoom meetings, you see yourself on, on the video. If you don't see yourself, that's okay. That's normal. Because it's a webinar, that's kind of the format. So don't stress if you don't see yourself, you are still here and important to the conversation. So, well, it looks like, do we have the chat feature? I think we do have the chat feature enabled. If you're able to, in Zoom, there should be a chat box. And if you could put where you were referred from, whether it's Long Beach Unified or somewhere else, and then how many children you have. If you'd like to share your ages, that would be great. The chat box, it's like a little box that you just click on, and then the chat box will pop up, and then you can type into that. It'd be great to see where everybody is coming from here. And just welcome. We're so glad that you came. The other question I wanted to ask in the chat box is, what have been your challenges during these COVID-19 shelter in place orders? I know that, the pandemic has brought extra stressors for most of us. And sometimes with how that comes out is in how we communicate with our loved ones, right? So when we're feeling peaceful, when we're feeling happy, our communication tends to be pretty good with the people that we are around. But when there's new stressors, new challenges, that often can come out in the way that we communicate with each other. And I'm going to get to the different types of communication in just a minute. Let's see if we can see the chat. So thank you. We have John and Diana came through a Facebook referral. Thank you. They have 2 girls, ages 4 and 8. Thanks for being here. Leah, we have 2 children, ages 1 and 4. Thank you. So great, glad you guys are here. So anyone, if you can put in the chat box, what have been your biggest challenges right now? We have Perla, thank you for being here, referred from ChildNet. They have 3 children, ages 12, 10, and 1. I know for some people, the communication challenges have been helping their children with that online learning. I know that's been really challenging for people. I'm going to move forward to the next part. So, but you're still welcome to put in your challenges. I think it's important to note what our challenges are so that we can figure out solutions to those. So we don't want to focus on the challenges too much, but I think it's really healthy to name what a challenge is so that you'll know when you get past that challenge. And then what are your successes right now during this shelter in place? So I know that I'll be talking about ways to communicate with your children and praise them. But I think often as parents, we don't always take the time to really stop and think about our successes. And I'm going to guess that you're doing a lot of things well. Sometimes we tend to focus on what we're not doing right, and we, beat ourselves up about that. But I think it's really important to think about, what am I happy about right now? Maybe it's we have a great system or organization for our day. Or maybe I'm just enjoying sitting on the floor and playing with my children a little more often. I think it is good to think about what you're doing well. So if you'd like to write that in the chat box, that would be great. I'll check those. John shared we have a schedule and this helps us keep focus. Yes. I think our schedules can kind of be our sanity right now. As much as the whole world might feel a little out of control and we don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen with the election. There's a lot of things we don't have control over, but we do have control of our mood in the home, what our structure looks like for the day. And I think it's really nice to be able to create some structure, but then also have flexibility, right? And so we'll get to that a little more. So great job, John and Diana. They have a schedule, and this really helps them kind of stay on task. And I know when my kids were little, that helped me kind of keep my sanity when, I had a little bit of a schedule for the day. So I knew in general, we ate breakfast around this time, then we'd go outside for a little playtime, then we had lunch at a certain time, then we had a little bit of nap time or quiet time, depending on the age. Then dinner was around this certain time. So it can kind of help create a little bit of that structure. All right, so great job, you guys. And just want to remind you, I put this on every parent workshop I do, that you are enough. You can do this. I know there are moments as parents you feel like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. I don't know if I'm the right person for the job. I thought I was going to be a good parent, but now that I'm in the moment, I am totally losing my patience right now. Or I still have a lot of things to work on. That's okay. The fact that you're showing up and even that you took the time to come to a workshop shows that you're willing to grow. It shows that you're willing to learn. So you can do this. You are enough. None of us are perfect, right? But as long as we keep growing and learning, we're going to be better and better parents. All right, so the topic today is communication. Sorry, I talk with my hands, even if I'm sitting down. All right, so what is communication? Basically, communication is just the act of transferring information from one person to another. So there's lots of different types of communication, but kind of what I paraphrase this as is basically sharing what's inside of you with the outside world. So we do really want to think about, what do we communicate to the outside world, to people that we care about? Are we communicating how much we love and care about them, how much we believe in them, how much we're delighted to be in their lives, we're glad that they were born? What are the things that we're communicating? Because that's how others perceive what we have to share. And so this kind of goes a little bit deep, but if a lot of what we're communicating is things that are hurtful or things that might be negative, we want to take some time to really think about what's coming out of our heart. And what, I used to really work more on like my words, and now I'm working a lot on kind of like what's in my heart, because if I have kindness, joy, love, peace that I'm working on for myself, then I'm able to communicate that with people around me. So in general, if we have things inside of us that are a lot of, maybe unhealthy thoughts towards ourselves, or things that aren't helpful for us, then we often, we give that out to other people too. So I just encourage you to kind of keep working on what's on the inside, because that will come out to the outside world. And there's lots of ways that we communicate. So of course, one is verbal, and I guess that's what we normally think of when we think of communication. So that's like, what we say to other people. And then we have nonverbal. And that is our body language, our facial expression, like I'm doing now, our gestures with our hands. I know my dad, he could literally tell me no from across the room without saying a word. He would just kind of like shake his head, put a little frown, like, no, that is not okay. And I'd be like, oh gosh, I need to stop. So, sometimes we underestimate the nonverbal. And they say, I forgot the statistics, it's around 80-90% of our communication is nonverbal. So sometimes people will say, well, I said, I love you, or I said this, but then if your body doesn't match what your words are, people are going to notice that. So our brains are actually, they're so smart, and they're hardwired to identify if what someone is telling you is safe, and if what someone is telling you matches up with their words. So that's why sometimes you get kind of that gut feeling that something's not right. Maybe they're telling you one thing, but their body language is saying another. That's our brain's way of identifying, gosh, you know, these nonverbal cues that I'm getting are really powerful and, you know, may not be matching what this person is saying. The other part is written. So obviously writing a message, it could be journaling, it could be leaving a note, you know, putting something on your refrigerator, whatever it is, that's also a way to communicate. And then of course, visual methods like art, photos. I love taking photos. It just gets me in the moment. Maybe drawing something, maybe showing a graph. There's lots of ways to provide that information. So just keep that in mind. Like how are we communicating? You know, maybe we are texting a lot or we're sending a lot of emails, but those don't always, those are great, but those don't always convey the full range of what we want to share. So it is important that, you know, that actually having that conversation sometimes is really helpful. So, all right. And I want to remind you that your words have a lot of power. Sometimes as parents, we feel like, you know what, I've said it 3 times, my children don't listen to me. You know, I don't think they really listen or whatever it is. Not saying you always think that, but I do hear that quite a bit from parents. But I just want to remind you that your children believe what you tell them. So if you are telling them that you are going to become a great person, I'm really proud of you. I know that you're going to figure this out. Maybe they're having a problem they're not sure how to solve. That's okay. And your words can either heal or hurt someone. And I've been doing therapy with families for a lot of years where, you know, sometimes those hurtful words really have a strong impact. And I know that we, you know, sometimes we say things we regret, and that's okay. But I do want to remind you that you do have a lot more power than you might think. So a good place to start is just think about, does my child know what the expectations are on a daily basis? You know, sometimes they're getting up at 9 o'clock and we wanted them. Now if you have young kids, you're like, I wish they would. But as they get to be teens, you know, maybe they're sleeping in and your expectation was that they were supposed to be up at 8 a.m. and then breakfast is at 8:30. But do your children actually know that? Sometimes we assume others know what our expectations are, but we actually haven't clarified that. So that's usually a good place I start with family therapy is I have the parents identify, okay, what are the rules in the home? What are the expectations, you know, and then really write those down. And we talk with the child too. What are your expectations? What would make a happy home for you on a daily schedule? So as much as you can, try to sit down together and make that schedule together. And some of it you might have to compromise a little bit. It might be, you know, I really love breakfast at 8 a.m., but you want it at 8:30. How about 8:15? Whatever that is, doesn't have to be an exact time, but I think it's really helpful to be clear on what your expectations are. So, and a nice thing to do when you're having these family meetings, if possible, is to try to come in with an attitude of curiosity instead of judgment. So usually we judge a lot without realizing it, and I do it myself as well. I have to catch myself a lot. I think, you know what, they know what's supposed to be happening and they're choosing not to do it, or whatever it is that our thoughts are. But usually there's something that we don't know, that we don't understand, that we want to find out more about. So as therapists, we do this. And I always try to teach parents kind of like what the tools that therapists do, because, you know, if you do a lot of these things, your children might not need therapy. Sometimes they do. Sometimes, you know, something happens to them, they need support. But if you can go in with curiosity instead of judgment, it really helps. And judgment means you're deciding that something is right or wrong. And often parents don't listen very often to their children. Sometimes they do, and they're great listeners, but I think the way a lot of us were raised were, obviously 100 or 200 years ago, children were seen and not heard. And we've come a long way from that. We definitely can honor a child's feelings. We definitely can listen to what they have to say. But usually, if we really are honest, if we go into a conversation, we usually want to share how we feel about it, and we aren't as ready to listen. So I just want to encourage you that make sure that you take that time to listen as well as share your feeling. So in therapy, we try to set up boundaries for this. We'll say, okay, we're going to allow this child to talk for 3 minutes without being interrupted. And in some families, you might be shocked how hard that is. Some parents absolutely can't do it. They can't listen without interrupting, or they want to give their side of it, which is understandable. We all want to be heard and we all want to be understood. But I think it's important to make sure that, we can't control what other people do, right? But we can try to listen to where our child is coming from. Now, the good news is you don't have to agree with them. You might feel like that's a totally different perspective than maybe what I think about the situation, but that's okay. It is not your job to agree with them. It's your job to listen and show them that you care. So I don't know if some of you have gone to my positive discipline workshops at all. This is something we bring up, but in case you're brand new to our group today, I wanted to just put this in here that if we look at the amount of statements that we tell someone during the day, often it's a lot more negative statements than positive. So we might give, 10, I need you to do this, or you're not doing this right, or this isn't happening. We don't give those positive statements as much as we should. So a nice goal is to try to have 10 positive statements for every correction. And I know this may not sound easy, but it is a nice goal to try for. So what does this sound like? This is like, hey, great job listening to mom the first time this morning. Or great job coming to breakfast fully dressed without me telling you when. Or I'm really happy that you made your bed today without being asked. It could also be, I noticed that you shared your favorite toy with your sister. That I know that wasn't easy for you to do. So as parents, our energy is so important. We really need to think about what we put our energy into, because if we put a lot of energy into the negative behaviors, because our children want our attention more than anything, it's really important that we put that energy towards those positive behaviors that we notice with our eye contact, with our body language, and with our words, that we notice when they're doing something right. So I've seen a lot of children get attention either in a good way or a bad way. And children are going to get your attention, from you as a parent. And hopefully it will be for those positive things that we want to see. So, and this works too in relationships, right? It's not always easy to do. It actually takes a lot of practice and a lot of discipline. So the good news is you can start to make small improvements. And you'll notice, maybe if you're having a really bad day, you're like, you know what, I'm noticing all the things in my life that I don't like, and I'm talking about those. So you can quickly switch that around to, I'm grateful that you took out the trash today, or I'm grateful that you logged into school online on time today. Maybe, 4 out of the 5 days out of the week, they aren't getting to school on time, but the one day that they do what you want them to do, you got to notice that and really praise it. Like, great job, we got to school on time today. Now you just focused your energy in what you want from your child. So our children are going to have a lot of emotions. Not all of them are fun for us as parents to kind of deal with, but the good news about emotions are that they pass. So often, I think some of the ways we were raised was, if you have a feeling that your parent doesn't like, just shut it down because I can't deal with it, or I don't have the time. but it's really helpful if we help children identify what they're feeling and then kind of sit with them in that feeling for a minute and just know that that feeling is not going to last forever. And this kind of goes with our next, let's see if I have the roar. I think I have that. Sorry, thought it was the next one, but not quite. So a nice way to help them identify those feelings is to recognize the feeling. You can ask them, oh, wow, are you feeling angry right now? Your sister took your toy. Or you might ask them, do you know how you might be feeling? You can have a chart up if you like, and just let them know that all feelings are okay. We don't choose how we feel, but the good thing about a feeling is that once we identify it, once we allow it, it will subside. So generally what I see sometimes is kids, they don't know how to process anything painful. And so if they're having a really uncomfortable feeling, and if they're learned to shut that down, then it can be challenging as they become an adult. Because then because we don't know how to cope with these really uncomfortable feelings, we tend to like numb the feelings or turn to things to not have to feel that certain way. So as parents, we really have an opportunity to help them kind of sit with those uncomfortable feelings and know that they can get past it. The nice thing with children is they tend to go through emotions quicker than we do, right? Sometimes we think, oh gosh, if I identify that they're angry at me, it's going to keep going on forever. Actually, it's not true. If you say, you know what, it's okay to be mad at mommy right now because she told you no, and we don't like being told no. I don't like being told no either. And that's okay to be mad at mom. I still love you. I'm still here for you. And if you need a way to express that anger that's healthy, then here's some ideas. They could draw a picture about what they're mad about. They could write it down on a piece of paper. All feelings are okay, but not all behaviors are okay. So you can say, it's okay to be angry that someone took your favorite toy, but it's not okay to hit them. And I'm going to stop you, in a gentle way if you do try to hurt someone. So just letting them know those feelings are okay, but not all the behaviors are okay. A nice thing to say, just kind of, if you can't think of what else to say, is just, I understand. I understand you're angry. I understand you're frustrated. Just actually labeling the feeling helps them feel heard. Research has shown that our brains actually kind of calm down and relax when we name the feeling. So you don't have to completely know what someone's going through because we all have our own unique experiences and we'll never fully understand, another human being 100%. But you could just tell them, I understand that you might feel that way, or I understand that that's frustrating for you. So if possible, I know sometimes as parents, when children tell us their struggles, we want to jump in. We want to fix it. We want to, make it better for them, which is great. But sometimes we do that too often and it can backfire a little bit. So one good tool as they get a little bit older, you can ask them, do you need help? Yes or no? Because sometimes we think they need our help and they actually don't. They really don't want us to jump in, right? Other times they're like, yes, mom, I would like some help. And then once you come in to help, we're going to get to problem solving in just a minute, but you can talk to them and say, okay, do you have any ideas on some way that we could solve this problem? Your child might have some great ideas that you never thought of. And I know for my children now in college, if you can use some of these strategies and listen and try not to judge and try not to fix or problem solve every time, your children are going to feel like you're a safe person to call when they're going through something challenging. So, both my kids are in college and they live outside the home, and I love it when they call me. They still call me. In fact, just last week, like my son called me about an issue that was happening and he wasn't quite sure how to handle it. And I was able to just kind of sit with him in some of that uncomfortable feeling, in a little bit of that pain. And of course, I wanted to solve it for him. I wanted to protect him. But at the end of the conversation, he had some ideas, he had a plan, and he had a little bit of comfort knowing that I wasn't judging or, always trying to fix it for him, but just to know that I'm here with him and that I'm supporting him in what his decisions are. So just wanted to share too, please don't be afraid to apologize as a parent. Sometimes we feel like if we say I'm sorry, that we think our kids are going to lose respect, or maybe it helps us, maybe it makes us lose authority. And I just want to challenge that myth, because saying I'm sorry is a really important component of healthy relationships. And I mean, obviously, if you're saying it every day and you're doing some behaviors that aren't safe or are dangerous or things like that, of course, we want to make those changes. But I know for me, like, I don't think my parents ever said sorry. I think it just was one of those things that parents kind of, I don't know if it's an authority thing, but if you have that kind of relationship where you can say sorry for your mistakes, it creates this really great example of a role model on what to do. And it's pretty cool when you are able to admit what you want to work on, and that some of your weaknesses, your children actually start to feel comfortable doing that with you as well. So, I might say, you know what, I'm sorry, I really overreacted to that. I didn't like the way I said that yesterday, and it's been kind of bothering me. Maybe it didn't hurt you, or maybe it did, I'm not sure, and maybe have that conversation. I think it means a lot to them to know that you care enough to not want to hurt them, or to have the reflection later. And that can be really healing for them, just to know that you care and that you're aware that your actions can have an impact on them. I'm going to check the chat really quick. Okay, so one person asked, what is the way to let them express themselves other than coloring a picture? Our son hates coloring. He's good about being able to identify his feelings, but I need ideas on how he can let it out in a positive way. Okay, great. So yeah, as therapists, we kind of come in and we'll have a little list of anger management skills. It can be journaling. If he doesn't like drawing, I don't know his age, so I don't know if he's old enough to write. Maybe there's 04. Okay. He could maybe run in place. Maybe you can come up with a list of things together, and you can even Google it, look up anger management techniques for 4-year-olds. And then maybe print it out and then come up with that together. Hey, when you get mad, it's okay to be angry. And by the way, 4-year-olds are still learning how to manage their emotions. They cannot manage their emotions as well as adults because their brains are not fully developed yet. So I know my son, I mean, at 3 years old, he was like, he would throw things when he got mad, and it was kind of scary, but he doesn't do that anymore. He's older. He has learned that that's not okay. So maybe come up with a list together, and, but yeah, I like that you are helping him learn to identify his feelings. And at 4, sometimes, she said, good, I thought it was only our child. No, it's not your child. I do give a talk on taming tantrums too. Toddlers are kind of like wild animals. They basically haven't learned how to manage their emotions yet. And so doesn't mean that they're bad. It just, that's their brains have not fully developed. So it's our job to help them learn what behaviors are okay and what are not okay, and then how to express that frustration. So all right. And I think coming up with a list of things to do together can be cool, because then you could go, oh, let's go back to the list and see. I could punch a pillow. I could stomp in place. I could do 10 jumping jacks. I could talk to someone. Maybe I'm really mad that you took my toy. Or I'm really mad that I didn't get the candy bar that you said no in the grocery store line. And just know that it's okay. You'll still be there for them, and that they'll get past that angry feeling. So another great tool is to say what you, looking at the time, okay, we're good on time, is to say what you want versus what you don't want. So naturally, we want to, when we want to stop a behavior, we say the behavior we don't want. So we say, stop running in the hallway. But if we can, try to say what you need them to do instead. So a lot of times children are like, okay, stop running in the hallway. What am I supposed to do instead? I don't know what that is. So we need to say what we want. Like, I need you to walk in the hallway. Or you'll see teachers are very good at this. There could be, 20 kids running around the classroom, and that one child is sitting on the rug waiting patiently for story time to start with their hands folded in their lap. And the teacher will talk about that child. The teacher will say, wow, I really love that Johnny is sitting nicely on the rug with his hands folded, ready for story time. And then all the other kids are like, what? Who's getting attention right now? Oh my goodness. Okay, he's doing what we're all supposed to be doing. So again, this isn't always easy to do. It's not always natural, but the good news is you can work on this and get better at it as you go. So anytime you have your child doing something that you don't like, think about, what do I want them to do instead? And then try to tell them that. All right, and I'm used to, with this webinar, I'm used to like kind of seeing everybody and getting the feedback. So in case you're just joining a little bit later, we will at the end have time for specific questions, and we'll take it off webinar mode so that if you have specific behavioral issues that you want to ask about, and you'll also have a little more privacy for that too. All right, another great tool is using those when then statements. When your toys are put away, then you may watch TV. Or when your bed is made and the clothes are picked up off your floor, then you can go out with your friends if you have maybe teenagers. The answer is not always going to be a no. The answer might be, when this happens, then you may do this. I know for my son, when he got home from school, when he was a teenager, I'd say, when your homework is done and your chores are done, then you can play your video game. Right? So he knew what was expected. It wasn't, no, you're not allowed to ever play video games. But you can't just do anything you want to do around the clock. It has to be, there are certain privileges that you are allowed when your responsibilities are taken care of. All right, so another nice tool is to actually ask them to repeat what you told them to make sure that they understand what you're saying. Sometimes we get mad because we think they're not listening to us, but maybe they are really absorbed in a task. And it's really hard for children, especially young children, to do more than one thing at a time. So they might really be focusing on that Lego set or that puzzle set, and they honestly aren't hearing that request, even though you think for sure they heard you. It might be nice to go over and get down to their eye level and ask them, okay, great. I see that you're brushing your teeth. What is it that mommy needs you to do next? Sometimes kids will go, oh, I don't know, I can't remember. Or, oh, you want me to get my pajamas on. So it kind of helps when they know what you want them to do. And repeating it back can be a nice way that you know that they understood. Now, I do want to say, if you do this, it's done with, our goal is to have kind and respectful parenting with those boundaries. So we can say it in a respectful way. It doesn't need to be, what did I tell you to do? It honestly can be, hey, I know is now a good time to give you some instruction because I have a couple directions I need you to follow. Is now a good time to tell you? And they might say, okay, yes, I can hear what it is you're asking me to do. Or I'm almost done with this task. Can I, ask you, and can you tell me in 3 minutes or whatever it is? Not that you can always do that, but I think it does, how do we want to be talked to as adults, right? We don't always like if someone barges in our room, tells us what to do, and leaves when we're right in the middle of what we feel like is an important task. So we can come in and say, hey, I have a couple things that need to be done. Is now a good time to tell you, what that is. And if not, when is a good time? Again, in a perfect world, we can't always do that, but it is a nice tool. And I know I have one of my children has some ADHD symptoms, and this really helped to make sure that she understood what the next request was. You don't want to give too many requests in a row. If you ask children to do like 4 or 5 things, sometimes that just gets kind of overwhelming. So sometimes just 1 or 2 next tasks can be really helpful for them. Does anyone have any questions so far on all of that? I'll check the chat box here periodically. Another nice tool is choices. So as children, you don't have a lot of control over your life, right? You don't get to choose where you're born. You don't get to choose who your parents are. You don't really get to choose a lot of what you get to do that day. And so it's nice to be able to provide choices when possible. This doesn't mean that we let children do whatever they want, but sometimes it helps to be able to pick what those choices are and then let them choose. So that can be, we know it's cold outside. We know we want them wearing a jacket, but we can say, would you like the blue jacket or the black jacket? Or we know we want them to have breakfast. Would you like to have oatmeal or toast for breakfast? Generally, if we help them with if we give them more choices that can help them in a world where they feel kind of out of control, it will make them feel like they do have a little bit of control over things that are happening. So again, we can't always provide a million choices. I had one friend that she'd go through 3 different drive-throughs because all her kids wanted different food. I thought that was a little much on the choices. Maybe that's just me. I'm kind of like, hey, this is where we're eating. You get to choose off the menu what you want, but we're not going to 3 different places. So, I mean, I think within reason, of course, but I think it can be done in a way that really helps children feel more confident. All right, another great tool is whispering instead of yelling. So sometimes naturally, if children aren't listening, our voice starts getting louder because we get frustrated and we think a louder tone is going to get their attention more. So, and you're human if that's the case, but another great tool instead can be just to get down to their eye level, make eye contact with them, and actually whisper. I actually added this one in here from a family member of mine. Her son was kind of acting up, and instead of kind of embarrassing him in front of everyone and yelling at him and telling him to cut it out, she just went over to him, she whispered in his ear, and he just stopped what he was doing. And I thought, wow, that was such a respectful way to let him know that that behavior wasn't okay. So she didn't ignore it, and she didn't let him act up and interrupt everyone and kind of be disruptive, but she took care of it, but in a way that was respectful to him. So I think that can be a nice tool. If you're kind of running out of ideas, just go ahead and whisper. Kids are kind of shocked. They're like, oh my God, why is mom whispering when she's usually yelling at us? All right. And if you've been in my positive discipline workshops before, I've mentioned this one before, but another great thing is to just problem solve together. Sometimes as parents, we think, oh my gosh, we have this issue and I have no idea what else to do. I have tried everything in my power to make this work. So what you do when the children, I mean, obviously when they're old enough to reason a little bit, when they're infants, this won't work. But as they get older, you can say, what do you think is a good solution to our problem? So basically what we want is our children to be problem solvers in this world, right? We want them to be able to come up with creative solutions. And if we're always telling them what to do, and we don't let them think of a solution, then it's not really empowering them to be those great creative adults. So I'm going to check the chat real quick. Our son likes this. Him picking the consequence helps a lot. Yeah, that's great. I like that. So I think I've shared this story before, but and this can look different ways. It could be, hey, we're running late for school every day and I'm not sure what's going on. I'm really trying to get us there on time. I'm kind of running out of ideas. What do you guys think would be a good solution? And you're probably going to be surprised your child comes up with something that you never thought of. And children generally are more willing to listen to a solution if it's something they came up with. So, and then you still have that authority. You can say, you know what, I love that idea. Let's go for it. I love that. Let's try that tomorrow and agree together. So that can be a great tool. And I shared this, like I said before, with my son that with video games, I was getting frustrated because he didn't want to stop playing the video game when it was time for dinner. And so the key with this problem solving is make sure that you're calm and you're not angry when you sit down together. So I waited till I was a little more calm that night. And then I was like, hey, you know, what was going on earlier with the video games? And it was time for dinner. And so I did, as I'm sharing with you guys, I talked about, we really need to listen to them where they're coming from. He shared his perspective, which I had no idea about, which was, yeah, sometimes dinner's ready at different times. I play with the whole team of people, and if I leave the game, the whole team loses. My friends are going to get upset with me. I might not be able to play that with them again. And so he came up with a great idea, which was, how about before I start a game, I'll come ask you what time dinner is going to be ready. And I love that idea. And I said, I'll do a better job of making sure dinner is, that I communicate with you what time dinner will be ready. So it's, you know, it doesn't vary so much. And so, so that worked really well. And I thought, you know, if I had just gone in there and punished him or unplugged the video game from the wall and you know, we wouldn't have come up with that great creative solution together or a respectful solution to that issue. So this one can be really, really helpful for everybody. Almost done here, you guys. I know we're getting close to being done. Thanks for being a great audience, whatever you call it if you're on Zoom. All right. Another thing is maybe just take a little break. Take a little time in. We used to call it time out, but we're kind of calling it more time in to just calm down. So this is a chance to connect emotionally with your child and maybe just take a quick break from what is happening. So, you know, sometimes children are acting up because they have an emotional need that's not getting met. And honestly, taking 5 minutes to meet that emotional need can stop that behavior for maybe the rest of the day, maybe the next few hours. So before I had kids, I read a great book. It was, I think it's called How to Communicate Effectively with Your Child, something like that. And he's a psychologist, and he shared an example of, I think he had 5 kids, and they were having a moving day. And his son was just whining and whining and whining, and it was driving him nuts. And he's like, I don't have time to really, like, what is going on? Like, I just don't have time to deal with you right now. Like, we have a lot going on. But he said, nope, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take a break for a minute and kind of like fill his emotional love tank is what, you know, you might call it. And so he calmed himself down, pulled him into the next room, and he sat him on his lap and he said, hi, how are you doing? And what's going on for you? And then his son kind of shared, you know, kind of how he was feeling. I think it was like just some sadness about moving that day and needing to kind of get that emotional connection. And he said, I gave him a hug. I sat with him for about 2 minutes. He jumped off my lap and he was fine the rest of the day. And if he had punished him for that, you know, he wouldn't have really had that chance to help his son know that his emotions were important and that he cared about him. So I know we don't always have the time to do this. I know it's hard. You're running late to work or you got to be somewhere. But if you can, sometimes just taking that quick time together can really meet that need and stop the behavior. Some people have a calm down area or a safe space in their home where you can go and just kind of help regulate emotions. Other times children don't want to be with someone, they need some alone time, and that's okay too. You can ask them, would you like me to sit with you right now to help you calm down? Would you like a hug? Or would you like a little time alone? Some people really enjoy that time alone. And just want to add, telling your child every day that you love them, no matter what they did. I know sometimes we have hard days. We don't feel like doing that. Or maybe it's easy for you. Maybe you already do it, and that's great. Giving them those hugs too is really important. Sometimes we think our child knows how we feel because of course we're there with them, we're providing for them, but we can't assume that. We do need to use those words and we do need to give those hugs. So again, I think I shared in our last positive discipline one, but I added this one in because I was doing a therapy session with a teen son and a mom, and he literally said this. He said, I feel like you don't love me. And she said, what are you talking about? Like, everything I do is for you. I work 3 jobs. I bought that iPhone you have right now. Like, why are you, how can you say this? And he literally said that. He said, you never tell me you love me and you never give me hugs anymore. And I thought, wow, sometimes we forget that the most basic thing that we can do to tell them, show them that we love them is so easy. That is totally free. We can give them a hug. We can tell them we love them, and that's all they really need, right? So just a quick reminder. I know with my son away at school, when he was home last time, I asked him this. I said, sometimes I'm so used to doing so much for you when you're home, and it's weird not like making 3 meals a day and, seeing you all the time and talking to you all the time. So what's something I can do to show you? I mean, I love you and I think about you, but like, what can I do? And he's like, why don't you just send me a text? I love you, or I'm thinking about you. And I thought, God, that's so easy. And I was racking my brain, like, what can I do to show them I care? And it was like, that was so simple, but asking them what they need could be really great too. All right. And just to remind everyone, self-care isn't selfish. We have to fill ourselves in order to give back to all the great people in our lives and all the important work that you're doing every day in your jobs and as parents. So what are you guys going to do for yourself this week? Would it be, especially today with the election, I know there's a lot of stress happening, and we can't control everything in the world happening, but we can try to control what we do. So whether that's take a quick walk, take a little bath, read a book, maybe do some art activity, gardening, something that brings you joy, I encourage you to try to do that this week. If anyone would like to share what they're going to do for self-care, feel free to add that in here if it's not in the chat already. I think it's important. Our children, basically, they want their parents healthy and happy. And whatever that needs to be, let's try to make that happen, right? And just a quick reminder, ChildNet, we provide free mental health services. Our intake department is in the office Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's our intake phone number, 490-7600. And then also California has a parenting hotline that they've established during the pandemic. They know that parents are really stressed right now. So if you need to just talk to someone or text, this is the phone number. It's 1-855-4A-PARENT. Wanted to put that out there. You can take a screenshot or take a picture with your phone. Don't feel bad about asking for help. We all need help sometimes. All right, and then I will put a survey in the chat box. ChildNet is a contracted Department of Mental Health provider, and part of that is that we are required to gather information about our outreach efforts and if these efforts are helping the community. So if you don't mind filling out the survey in the chat box, I'll put it in just a minute. It's very short and it's just an online survey. I think it's like 5 questions. That would be wonderful if you don't mind filling that out. All right, so thanks so much, you guys. I think we will, okay, great. I just put the link in the chat box. If you do click on the link, it won't take you out of the webinar, when I've tried it before. So I think we're good on that. If you need to stop or you need to end the session, feel free to leave. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you being here. If you would like to stay on, we're gonna take it off webinar mode. And then if you have specific behavior questions, or if you would like to add any comments or any other ideas that we didn't get to talk about today, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Julie. For those of you that are still with us, I am going to stop the recording, so you are more than welcome to join in and show your camera and speak as well. Let me turn these off.
Thank you, Will.